A Bandage and a Blush, written by Diana Carmenova, illustrated by Diana Carmenova, inspiration by Mouthwashing the Wrong Organ. Chapter 1. Dear Diary, December 31st, 3045. Today was a chaotic day. It's hard being a medic in the medical field, the shift dripping through the void like an endless clock, to deliver things created by man, even though soon we may die. Michael hit his hand while trying to nail something in. What an idiot. He can't even nail something right. I'm surprised he's even here. I don't like teenagers, especially Mike. Teenagers get too emotional. Isaac's okay. He's just a grump. He's always so grumpy with Mini Mike. Like, he's his intern. Aren't you supposed to teach him something? I can't believe I'm here. At least my friend, who works as an emotional and psychological balancer, is here. Everyone calls her Miss A, but that's just a stage name. Her real name's Avalis. She helps Isaac with his past and Niall from getting too out of hand. It's all right here, I guess. Niall's what we call a chaos child. She's also an intern along Mini Mike. She helps perform more dangerous tasks outside the ship. Oh, and I'm pretty sure our captain, Landon, is obsessed with our ship. He calls it Starfire, after the Teen Titans series he read from like 1,000 years ago. Why use paper when we have something called digital screens that don't harm the Earth? Now we're all stuck here, all together and cooped up, delivering God knows what. I heard that we're going to get a new guy on our team once we hit one of our checkpoints. I wonder who it is, but I'm not too excited about it. Not too excited about anything nowadays. Katie! Captain Landon practically barked at me. My wide, mismatched blue-green eyes looked up, seeing the annoyed captain standing opposite from me at my desk in the medbay. Explain what you're doing, Miss Caitlin. He crossed his arms. God, I hated it when he said Miss Caitlin. He knew I hated that name. My real name. Is there something wrong, Capt? I grumble, obviously not liking his attitude. He speaks too loud for a person that would probably crash Starfire. Yes, you can, Missy. Can you go check on Mini Mike? He said he ain't feeling good. That was weird, I thought. Mini Mike was the bundle of joy we knew. Or Niall, our chaos child. But I could dwell on it for hours. I get up with my regular attire, my coat hanging loosely from my shoulders. I walk through the sterile empty halls of pipes, metal, and the click of my boots against the flooring, trying to make my way to Michael's area. As I walked on, I passed by Miss A and Chaos Child, yelling again. I rolled my eyes, sighing, as I walked into their shared quarters. You're supposed to use the blue power cord to the green power cord, Miss A yelled loudly. That's the issue that happens with children born in different eras. Well, technically, I can connect both power sources. Clearly your brain neurons don't connect, Chaos Child clapped back. She wasn't even a child, just a very short, sassy woman. Just as Miss A was about to yell at the sassy woman, I stepped up, sighing. Chaos, listen to your sister. I tried my best not to swear around the little woman, but it was a bit difficult. Aw, why do you always side with her? Is it because she's your best friend? Chaos Child snapped. I rubbed my eyes with a frustrated look at the tiny woman, who clearly tried to get on everyone's nerves. It's because she has a logical mindset that you clearly lack. Ouch! Burn! Miss A joked. Chaos Child huffed, crossing her arms with a pout while looking away. Now thinking about the papers on Mrs. A's desk were so interesting, but the red look on her face said something else. Embarrassment. I shake my head, rolling my eyes while I walk off, heading to Michael's room, trying my best not to get off track again. My boots clicked against the ground, the cold, dirty metal ground of the ship we called Starfire. I kept walking and walking, and then my mind drifted. I remember the days when I was younger. I used to be in my room, not believing that my grandma's stories about how she said that her grandma said, in the past, we used to use notebook paper and pencils. Can you imagine? Pencils? Just wood and charcoal with something called an eraser? I was nearly disgusted by the thought, but that was just me. I always preferred the past over the future, but the future is just so much better, I don't know what to think about it. I remember the old days, however, when my grandpa used to teach me how to play the ukulele. I still remember everything. Now just place your fingers like this, like a sideways heart. That's how you play F. My grandpa used to say something to remember the chords by. But Grandpops, it hurts, I used to complain. My fingers too small for even the ukulele. But pain brings greatness and strength, dear child. There's no rose without thorns, he replied. There's no rose without thorns, I thought. I always related roses to life and love, and without thorns, it was something to truly think about. Hey, Katie, Mike whispered weakly, his head on his desk, cushioned by his arms, surrounded by scattered paper and blueprints. I walked over to him, my boots softly thumping against the ground. My heart was a bit in pain for the teenager. Hey, lad, you all right? I murmur, looking down at him. Michael barely moved, just gave a sad thumbs up. He was overworked, stressed, or anxious about Isaac, or all three. I sat down opposite from him, murmuring, You sure? Is Isaac being passive-aggressive again? I say quietly, not wanting to use a loud tone around a guy who's barely out of his teenage years. Mike nodded, tears welling up in his hazel-brown eyes, but not saying a peep. It was weird how people can cry without making a sound, yet my heart ached for the guy. I reached out, resting my hand on his shoulder in an attempt to soothe the stressed man. It'll be alright, mini-man. Just 6 more months of this metal junk, and we'll all be off to home. I'm just homesick. I miss my family. I miss my little sister. Michael admitted with a strained tone. I knew how it felt like to be homesick. It hurt, and it really did. The thought of just drifting through an endless void was brutal, especially being far from the planet you called home. I nod, continuing to pass back, as before I let it go. I gazed into his eyes before suddenly Nael barged in. Nael, the Chaos Child, the sassy woman, was overprotective too. Of course. What the hell are you doing, Katie? She snapped. I quickly backed up, raising my hands. Calm down, Chaos Child, I was just comforting him. I barely even got to finish my sentence before she shoved me out the way. Her slippers clicked against the ground as she hugged Mini Mike. I sighed, rolling my eyes as I leave the room, leaving the two lovebirds alone. I soon proceeded to head back to my medbay, going back to my diary, writing the endless pages. The pencil, mixed with the loss of power and the bittersweet feeling of exploration and homesickness, laid flat on my tongue. The pencil was weird, however. It wasn't just a regular pencil with the wood and charcoal like I mentioned earlier. It was like metal, but it's endless. However, my creativity lasted only a few minutes as the ship suddenly jolted. My pencil holder scattered across my desk, papers flying everywhere. My temper skyrocketed. Landon! For God's sake, do you even know how to steer? I snapped into the comms, scoffing and rolling my eyes. Others had the same exact voices like mine, Isaac's language being the most colorful. Sorry, it's hard to dock this stupid lump of metal. Dock? Were we already at the station? Pardon, Captain Landon? Miss A repeated. Yeah, we're docking. Station A9. Landon repeated with a somewhat formal tone. Seems like we're getting that new kid onto our ship pretty damn quick. Ain't that right, sis? Little Chaos Child said, her tone half joking but half intrigued. Shut up, Nael, Miss A snapped back. They bickered like two children fighting for attention. Could you please stop it with your yammering? Shut your traps. Isaac finally spoke up, his voice gruff and aged from years of bounty hunting on our most modern Earth. He was gruffer than most, more brutal, but at least he could watch his mouth. On some occasions. Miss A and Chaos Child knew better than talk back to him. I rolled my eyes a little as I picked up the pencils and papers. Whatever, Landon, just don't park so damn harshly, I snapped, before I put the uneven papers on my desk. It felt good to be at the station finally, one where we could actually walk around in a new area without having the threat of being cooked from the sun, choked from lack of oxygen, or frozen to death. Landon soon parked the massive, impressive ship we called Starfire, and we soon all got out. The stations themselves are like little plants of fire, where we met one of our commanders, the hundreds of people that ran our delivering company, Ron's Racing Delivery Incorporated. Ah, there's the good crew themselves, our commander said with his iconic, charming smile. Chaos Child and Mini Mike always thought the commanders were a little weird, like they got chill down their spine. Landon walked over with a smile, shaking his hand with the man they had power over him. The commander smiled. Was it weird that we don't know their names? I thought about that suddenly. Landon and the commander talked idly and dryly, while I looked over around the massive station. I barely had time to react before Miss A dragged me to the streets. We had about 1 hour to have our own fun before we had to be yanked back to the ship. Let's go check out that coffee shop. What's it called again? Lo-fi coffee? I don't even remember, but it's so tasty, Miss A asked while she practically dragged me along by the wrist. I sighed, stumbling with her. I was surprised she was still so scrawny and young. I felt older than a fossil. I walked into the shop full of random fluffy cats and humans all buying coffee and old ancient... boba? Boba was one of my favorite drinks from long ago. It was made around 2018. Can you imagine how old that is? Jesus, I thought. I groaned as Miss A was pulling me along. Whoa, they have brown sugar boba up here? I thought that was only around planet Earth, Miss A said with her wide hazel eyes. I gazed into her eyes as she talked aimlessly about the flavors, yapping about one thing to another. Her eyes reminded me of coffee, the drink that kept me wide awake when I needed to study. I never really saw how beautiful my best friend was until we stood under the fluorescent lights of the Lo-Fi Cafe. It made my eyes dilate, like a person high off of whatever. Yo, they got chocolate drip! Miss A practically screamed as she jumped up. Chaos Child, of course, was looming behind her like a damned cryptid. I caught Miss A right in my arms, holding her bridal style. Miss A and me just looked at each other's eyes before, being the charming prince I was, I dropped her, just neglectfully dropped her. Miss A hit the ground with a thud and a pained groan, others around, while Chaos Child looked down at her, a dumb grin on her face. Chaos Child stood up above Miss A and started to dance. It was a stupid thing called emoting, made in the early 2000s for PvP games. It was like a dance that they could buy with the game currency, and then dance on top of players when they were killed or taken down. It's as if saying that they were better. It's disrespectful in my eyes. Chaos Child, get off your damn sister, I grumbled quietly, picking up Chaos like an oversized toddler, in the way she was. No! Let me go! Niall whined. I sighed and I placed her back down, as Miss A finally gets up like a dead zombie, dusting herself off. Wow, such a best friend material, am I right? Miss A scoffed. I gave a sheepish look, looking away. Chaos Child giggled. What's the fuss about, idiots? Isaac appeared behind me this time, but I had less of a reaction. Just a little flinch, no biggie. Nothing, Grumps, I said quietly, looking away. Chaos Child then turned to Isaac, snitching like the little goblin she was. But hey, she was our goblin we all loved and cared for, even if her shenanigans got out of hand sometimes. So the iconic Caitlyn dropped her best friend. Wow. Stop calling me that, I barked, obviously pissed they couldn't keep my real name out their mouths. They look at me, wide-eyed, either way surprised or afraid, as I scoffed, looking away. Was I really that scary? Whatever, I murmured to myself afterwards. I didn't want to be that scary figure that everyone referred to as an abusive mother or father figure, but it was complicated with my past, hence I stayed with my grandpa for so long. I mastered the ukulele like a god. We bought our favorite bubbles and left. It was just 10 minutes before takeoff of the docks, since another ship was coming earlier than expected. It was time to meet the new kid.